Hello, good evening everybody. It's me again. My name is Arseny. I am an endurance athlete. I'm a full distance Ironman with personal best of 10 hours 35 minutes. My personal best in marathon is just about 3 hours 35 minutes, but it was on the back of a triathlon. I will be talking about nutrition today, sharing experiences of my own, sharing everything that I've learned by digging into research, by going to National Library Board's libraries. Yes, we are very lucky here in Singapore. There are lots of materials, highly recommended. And also by talking to other endurance athletes, pro athletes, marathon runners, and nutrition gurus of endurance world. So today's topic is about optimal training and recovery. We have 88 days, guys. Last time I've checked, it was 88. It's somewhat an auspicious number for those believing in numbers, but yeah, we have 88 days, so it's just about time. It's about that perfect time to start training, really. I highly encourage that. On the schedule of events with IRONMAN and Singapore Marathon, there would be a few more training sessions with Ben Pullman. It will be running clinics, it will be a set of live talks. There will be a few more live talks about nutrition as we come closer to the date. In those next sessions, we will be actually focusing on race preparation, those things that I highly recommend not doing on the eve of the race, on the race morning as well. And we will have some guests from pacers, from marathon pacers. We will have a co-host later on. But today it's all about optimal nutrition for training, training more efficiently, and recovering from training. And last session that I've done, I found it very interesting. You guys asked a lot of questions and comments, and please keep on asking questions. I'm monitoring them live. But also I asked a question, and there was a winner, and I rewarded the best answer with a $10 voucher in Starbucks to have a coffee. And I will do the same today. So I will ask one simple question, and the best answer, the first and the best answer that I will select, the author of that answer will get a $10 Starbucks voucher from me. So here we go. Question worth $10 in Starbucks vouchers. What is the best recovery food or drink for a 45-minute run in moderate and or low intensity? So if we speak about heart rate zones, it's zone 2 up, max zone 3, run 45 minutes. What is the best recovery? Food, drink, your choice. So tell me your answers in the comment section in this live talk, and I'm monitoring them for any additional questions that you may have about nutrition. Again, I'll go through all of your questions after the live talk. I'll try to answer all of them in our comment section as well. But please post your answers. What is the best recovery, food or drink, for a 45-minute run, low to kind of zone 3 intensity? So zone 2, zone 3 intensity, 45 minutes. What's the best recovery, food or drink? $10 vouchers waiting for their winners. I will nominate them in a short while. Okay, before we actually go into any recovery, I wanted to remind you there are 88 days. I told you it's an auspicious number. December 9 is quickly approaching, but generally speaking, you may already have a marathon running plan, and you already go for your long runs, whether they are on the evenings or mornings, and a lot of your friends are asking, hey, why are you doing this? So what's wrong with you? Maybe not, maybe they're not asking this, but I found it when I first went into endurance sports that people started challenging myself, like, hey, why do you need that? And actually, before we go into nutrition, recovery has many aspects, and psychological recovery and reasoning and motivation is also very important, especially for those of you that will run their first half marathon or a full marathon. That's significant distance if you didn't run it before. Those of you that wake up early in the morning and the alarm goes off, or after work you need to go for a run, there are some mood swings. I first want to start with the statement that it's all part of the plan, it's all normal, and also training optimally, meaning it means that you need to understand what is happening with your mood, with your psychology. So the answer to why we train is actually in the science of sport psychology, is because we are determined and because we are motivated. People generally have to have some level of determination, whether they are, some drivers at work and they try to achieve their goals. That's one kind of spectrum of determination. Some people actually are absolutely dependent on external support, and to get to their results, they actually need a lot of encouragement. It's all like different psychotypes, and amateur athletes and professional athletes, they're broadly categorized in several stages of their journey in terms of motivation. There is a research I can provide, and if you actually need those research links, let me know in comments. But there is a research that suggests that there are 3 types of climates of motivation that any athlete, be that a half marathoner, a full marathoner, professional, amateur, goes through. It first is just the motivation to prove something. It's something that you want to achieve, accomplish, show that you're able, show that you're just able to train, to go through the process of training. Second one is something called mastering. This stage is where you're actually digging into the more and more optimal ways to train. You're starting to read the literature, you're starting to meet your coach. Hopefully you actually already have a training buddy, a coach, a food buddy, someone that will be sharing the tips and tricks with you. And definitely the last stage is already focused on performance. When you're athletic enough, when you're experienced, you're fighting for results. So regardless which stage you're in, there are always very important factors that affect your progress. It's the factor of your sense of vitality. It's basically this subtle sense of like how much power you have inside. Like, when you have a very sugary drink and you feel pumped, that's a high vitality level. And when you feel low and you really don't want to go to the run, it's a low vitality level. It's very subjective, but vitality level, it's easy to support it by just having a crucial conversation with your maybe boss, maybe your significant other, that hey, I have this habit of having low vitality. In that moment, if you see me like I'm very cold and I need support, just tap me on the shoulder. I really rely on you. So have this crucial conversation. Ask your buddy to support you in that moment. It will be very helpful. The second aspect in sport psychology interventions is motivation. You really need to motivate yourself, and maybe if you're very interdependent, you really need to join a group of like-minded people for that. But motivating yourself is easiest when you have a habit. When you break down a big goal into smaller tasks, it's always easier to just put on the running shoes and think about your long run as like a sequence of events. Like, first I need to get home, then I need to have a quick snack, then I need to put on my running shoes, then I need to go and take the left turn out of my block where I live, and then I will just try to run for a couple of minutes, just stretch. I'll see how it goes, instead of punishing yourself with this assertion of a huge run ahead. So motivating yourself, getting into the habit of motivating yourself, getting yourself a schedule of a pattern, a schedule, is very important for optimal training. that includes nutrition. So the more systematic, the more boring in terms of nutrition you get, the more outcomes, the more results you will achieve in a shorter term. More highly nutritious, healthy snacks throughout the day instead of a big meal, as an example. And then we'll speak about that a little bit later. Third intervention is emotional. So emotional intervention is very simple. Don't just do full-time running. Don't give up on your social life. If you're training hard and you're tired, take a rental bike and just cycle around the block, or cycle to your friends and then back, or just go for a party. Do not overestimate the importance of just social communication when you're training, especially for a longer runs, for a marathon, for half a marathon. Emotions will allow you to avoid the so-called mood swings throughout your preparation for the big race day. So we've talked about vitality, we've talked about motivation and support from significant others, and your schedule commitments, and how you will extract more by getting into the habits, and emotions. These are all actually very important. They are not related directly to nutrition. They are more like an endurance mindset aspects. They are very important factors that will help you train optimally. We have, as I mentioned, 88 days till the big race day. So think about what maybe are the detractors. Whom can you talk to and ask for support? Maybe seriously, it could be like some of toxic closed circle connections. Maybe someone in your office environments. Maybe someone who is disappointing you, even in professional relationship. Since you have a big goal, you are determined. You are to run a half marathon or a marathon, or it's even your first 10K after you've gained a lot of weight. Speak about your goal and get yourself into the groove with the psychology of commitment, psychology of good mental state, let's put it that way. So that's even before we speak about nutrition. Let me quickly remind you that today's topic, for those who just joined, it's about how to train optimally and recover faster with nutrition. And there is a question that I asked, and for the author of the best answer, there will be a $10 voucher, a Starbucks coffee voucher that I will send. The question is very simple. Any free-form answer, leave it in the comments. I will be glad to nominate the winner. The question is, what is the best recovery food or drink? Hint, hint. Maybe it's not a food, maybe it's not a drink, maybe something else. I don't know. What is the best recovery food, drink, or maybe nothing, maybe something, for a 45-minute moderate intensity to low intensity run? So say zone 2, zone 3, those of you that already adopted the notion of heart rate zones. What is the best, in your opinion, recovery? Let me quickly go through the comments. I'll see if there are any questions. I will make a pause to respond to that. What is the best? Hey, Julius Jordan, very good question. What is the best way to keep or retain fluids during a run in a 10K distance? That's a good question. Fluids are easily measured. It's a very quick trick that in endurance training you have to do quite early. I wouldn't say the 10K distance is something that like you have to be very worried about, even though we live in Singapore and we sweat a lot. And yeah, men sweat more than women. Like men in Singapore sweat a lot. I would not be too much worried about fluid loss, but it's easy to measure it. So you take scales, yeah, you measure yourself before the run, then you come home after 10K, you measure yourself after the run. Then you basically have the weight difference and you multiply it by about 1.3. This is kind of the usual 130% of the weight loss is the rehydration suggestion. So this is something that elite athletes, recovery books that I've read, recovery focused books and research that I've read, elite athletes, professionals, they do about 130% of the fluid loss as the recovery after the run. I do not recommend drinking through the 10K run at all. This is my recommendation, despite there is a again, like today I am sharing my personal opinions, and everything that I'm sharing is based on my research. I've got a specialist diploma in nutrition science, and I read a lot of research papers and books, and I test it on myself, but I don't ask for a unilateral agreement for that. But 10K is a short distance, and maybe if you do that for entertainment, stopping at eight stations and having a drink is something you can plan in your run. But if you're serious about a decent result that would motivate you for years to come, or maybe beat some previous results, do not stop. You don't actually need that much fluid to do a 10K distance. Hopefully that's an answer. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions on nutrition. Sorry guys, I'll need to reopen it. I just closed it. Sorry. I didn't mean that, by the way. So it just happens sometimes to me. Any more questions? Wholemeal bread toast with. Okay, this is the answer how you recover. Okay, Lynn Ahmad asks a question. Why don't runners eat bananas whilst running? They work well for cyclists. They would work equally well for runners. I'm not sure if I get the notion of the question, because it depends on the organizer. If an organizer is able to provide bananas through aid stations, it's something that a lot of, especially amateur runners that just experience a long race for the first time, they will stop and eat bananas. I've seen a lot of people just sweeping through all the options out there in the aid stations. It's very natural, but it depends on what is possible through the organization, and a lot of that comes in Singapore particularly. There are some restrictions, there are some negotiations that have to be done. Never mind. Okay, well, any particular food is out, sport drinks with electrolytes, I'm participating 5K arcade. Okay, no more questions. I'll continue. Okay, just a reminder, I will provide a $10 Starbucks coffee voucher for the best answer to a very simple question. What is the best recovery food, drink, in your opinion, for a 45K low, moderate, like zone 2, zone 3 run? So what's the best option in your opinion, and why? Put it in the comments. The best author gets a $10 from me. Okay, we've spoken about the very important aspect about mental motivation, determination, your sense of vitality, mental state for the training. Now let's talk about how to achieve more. When we talk about half marathon and marathon distance, a very important aspect of performance in endurance racing, particularly in those distances specifically, is the maximum oxygen uptake. Something that is measured with a famous metric called VO2 max. It's basically how much oxygen can your body take in. It's measured in liters per minute per kilogram of your body weight. How much oxygen is your body able to take in? Oxygen is crucial in oxidizing the fats, triglycerides that are stored in muscle tissues, in adipose tissue, in our skin, fat, whatnot. They are requiring 2 liters of oxygen per 1 gram, and it's a very energy-rich source. Once you start oxidizing fat, it gives you instantly 9 kilocalories of energy. To compare, the other source of energy that we rely on very easily, because it's easily available in our body, is carbohydrates. So the glucose, which is stored in the body called in those battery packs inside our body called glycogen. They require less than 1 liter per gram, but they also give you like 4 grams. One gram of glucose gives you about 4 kilocalories, but they are much less oxygen demanding. So if you want to perform, if you want to have more energy through your through your training cycle, you really need to think about developing the maximum oxygen uptake. And there are multiple ways. It's quite disconnected from nutrition. You can't really eat up an improvement in maximum oxygen uptake figure and your oxygen uptake. You cannot really take a pill for that. There are multiple ways to do that. High intensity workouts, short repeated, for example, hill runs, and also the base of your training should be very much about a quantity of training. So training long, slow distances, training a lot by volume at a low pace at level 2 will pump a lot of air into your lungs. Your lungs will start developing more alveoli in them, and you will be able to increase this digit, dial up the digit of oxygen uptake. But very interesting research that I found. So assuming, like I've just covered two important training aspects. One is the interval training. I do hills. I do hill reps at the maximum effort for a minute and a half uphill. I call it a sufferfest. So I've mentioned high intensity training, hill work, hill reps, hill repetitions particularly. Second one, I've mentioned a slow, long distance, slow distance, LSD, SLD, there are different names for that. So there's an interesting research that I found recently, and I'm here sharing it with you. It's actually very new. This year, people found out that training through the so-called morning low protocol is very beneficial to develop more maximum oxygen uptake and improve the performance through that. So let me tell you more about this morning low protocol. If you have a highly loaded carbohydrate-rich meal as a snack before your hill runs, so you do maximum effort for short intervals, during that load, your body pretty much switches to using glycogen as the energy stores, but it still goes into the anaerobic zone, so you suffer from absence of oxygen, and you thereby kind of stressing your lungs, stressing your body to be more efficient in oxygen uptake. You will need, with more and more trainings like that, you kind of inform your body to start developing more alveoli in the lungs and be more efficient in oxygen uptake. So you take a snack, you do the high intensity workout, hill reps, maybe you do that at the track, something, and then you don't recover carbohydrate. So you basically allow you cool down. You take the very easy cool down recovery pace run after the hit. Then you do not replenish fully. You do not recover your glycogen stores. You let the lactate that is still in your blood, in your system, to be passed through the liver. That will then replenish the glycogen stores, and you leave it like that for the night. You sleep well, and then you don't do a breakfast. You don't do a heavy loaded breakfast before the long run. And in the long run, basically, you are relying on fats predominantly. Long run, here we call a long, like I call a long run anything that is more than an hour and a half, more than 90 minutes. But again, it's a slow, long run. More than 90 minutes, 2 hours, so name it 2 hours plus is a very good long run. So the research shows that if you do recover afterwards, and you are suggesting me, remember that question that I asked you, you're suggesting me the best recovery options. I will remind you the $10 voucher is still there. You recover after a long run, and if you do that repetitively over a certain number of weeks, I think it's about 6 weeks that this study was going on. So if you do an evening intensity workout that you snacked before, then you do not eat, then you do not recover, then you go for a good sleep, and then you do a long, slow distance. This is the morning low protocol that is in a controlled study showing a significant improvement in oxygen uptake. That's pretty cool. So I highly recommend my buddies, my mentees, I do it myself. I highly recommend doing this morning low protocol. It's something that is dependent on nutrition. And the trick to it is to have a good night's sleep without nutrition recovery before the long run in the morning. So you schedule it accordingly, set the alarm, and you will benefit from this type of nutrition regimen more, according to the latest controlled study. It's not subjective. There is another study that a lot of people refer to, and I also refer to it. That study suggests that for a long aerobic exercise, and here again, long in their study, it was a 60-minute zone 2 cycling that amateur, non-athletic people, that amateur athletes in their training towards a goal were looked at. They were taking a mix of carbohydrate with protein, and hint, through that study it all says chocolate milk. And the study suggests that by taking chocolate milk as a recovery drink, like Milo in Singapore is very popular, it's available pretty much anywhere, the subjects in a control group improved their VO2 max in 5 weeks of the study. However, look, I also do that because, just generally speaking, for a long run, which is 2 hours for me, maybe a 1 hour and a half, about 2 hours, that long run needs a little bit of recovery. And I'm taking Milo myself because it's a good mixture of protein that is needed to recover the muscle tissues damaged through the exercise, and it also allows me to quickly replenish the glycogen stores, the batteries inside our body. But hey, that study was actually funded by a National Dairy Council of the United States, and there's like a list of grants that this council sends out into research world continuously every year, and this is one of these kind of researches. But a lot of people still link to it. I have to admit that it's very subjective. I didn't myself see an improvement in my VO2 max. I definitely did not control it, but I still do that as a good way to replenish the glycogens after a long run, after something like 2 hours running. So okay, we've spoken about VO2 max. Let me remind you, I have a question for you guys, and the author of the best answer to this question will get a $10 Starbucks voucher to have a coffee. The question is, what is the best recovery, drink, food, anything, meditation, nothing, maybe no recovery, I don't know. What is the best food, drink, something, recovery for a 45-minute low to moderate kind of zone 2, zone 3 in heart rate terms run? What would it be, and why? Leave your answers in comments, and the author of these comments I will nominate and reach back to you, and you will get a $10 voucher. Also drop in your questions. Let me see if there are any particular questions about nutrition. Okay, Jonan, very good question. I drink 3 cups of coffee daily. Is it okay for a runner? Good question. I am a coffee drinker myself, but I don't tend to drink 3 cups a day. Coffee is not a stimulant. There is a very big misconception, and it's important actually to take a caffeine break, so-called caffeine fasting, before a long endurance event like a marathon. To replenish to restore your regular chemical level of adenosine in the brain. Coffee is not stimulating you for anything. What it does, it prevents a hormone called adenosine to attach to the receptors, because basically caffeine, it looks, from the molecular structure, it looks exactly like adenosine. So it's like apples to apples, or oranges to oranges, albeit it's not really oranges and it's not really apples. So your receptors that are getting the hormone called adenosine for you to feel drowsy, for you to slowly get into the sleep, they're easily blocked by caffeine. So what happens if you drink caffeine, you feel, you naturally feel more energetic because there is not much of this regular hormone attaching to the receptors because they're blocked. So think about like 5 fingers that have to receive a hormone that suggests to you that you need to get into the drowsy state before you get to sleep or just for you to cool down. And then you block 3 of them, you're left with 2, right? But you like, what you have is you still produce this as adenosine, and your body is not achieving rest. So the body does 2 things. First, it increases the sensitivity of the remaining sensors, and it cannot only do 2 actually. It just generally increases the sensitivity of your adenosine receptors. It becomes more receptive to adenosine. And second one is the body starts to secrete more adenosine. So if you all of a sudden remove caffeine, you have a picture where the receptors are much more sensible, and you have, instead of like 5 portions of adenosine, you all of a sudden have like 10. So that makes you feel sleepy. So caffeine is not pumping you, it's not your stimulant, it's not giving you a boost. What it does, it prevents you from getting drowsy. The reason why you need to get out of caffeine in the caffeine fasting stage of your diet before the marathon, I suggest at least like in 2 weeks time. I mean, my personal approach is to take decaf maybe a month before my event, and in about 2 weeks time, 0 caffeine. Like even tea, black tea, decaffeinated completely. The reason is you cannot stop for a coffee break when you're running a marathon, and there are no there are some sources of caffeine in gels, particularly, but they can be unpredictable, mixed up with your high level of excitement, with adrenaline, with your general stress level. Additional caffeine on the race itself, it can cause glute bomb. You can actually hit the potty with a running stomach, and it's not desirable, really. So I get out of caffeine, and I suggest you also do so. And on the day of event, I sometimes do a double espresso, or I take 1 caffeine pill at the start. Although, actually no, on the marathon, if you're doing it for the first time, it depends which time you're doing the marathon. There will be so much, like in Orchard area, there will be so many people, you'll have so much adrenaline, you will actually stay awake even without caffeine. You don't really need it. So my advice is carry on with coffee because it's cool, you got used to it, but then get out of it maybe 2 weeks in advance for the race, and do not test anything in the race. If you're going into the race and you do not plan to take gels with caffeine, you never tried it before, energy gels are different, do not take those gels. Take your own gels, or do something alternative. Take nutrition through some other source. Okay, cool. Any more questions? Should we go for fruits or sports bar peas during training to get used to them for the race day? Absolutely. Very good question, peas. This is something essential. You really need to train yourself to, if possible, find out what will be offered on aid stations. I know that the Stanchart is good at posting it on their website, and on they're very responsive. You can actually start asking these questions. I don't know for now what will be the aid stations layout, what will be there, but yeah, it's very, very important to get used to the in-race nutrition, to the sports bar. Never risk. Okay, one more question and I'll continue. I have some more material to cover. Is energy drinks really good and help runners? John Ang, the same question. Energy drinks have different definitions. If you're pumping a lot of caffeine, we just talked about caffeine, and a lot of energy drinks do have caffeine in them. It's not really beneficial, I would say, but yeah, it's generally advisable to think about rehydration and nutrition separately. Like in most of the sports drink industry sponsored researches, there are many sports drink manufacturers and they sponsor a lot of research. There is a hazard in this kind of research. There's like a little bit of there is a bias in that research. They would say that energy drink with a lot of carbohydrates is the best drink for endurance event. Not exactly. A very famous marathon runner, Abebe Bikila, in 1967, if I'm not mistaken, he did two great things. First, he ran a marathon barefoot, and then he ran a marathon without a single gulp of water. And there's a lot of research that suggests that over drinking drinking, particularly through the rehydration, will slow you down. So it's a very big topic. My consensus is I do not recommend getting habitual usage of energy drinks, and definitely do not use any energy drinks with caffeine through your training. It's not beneficial. All right, cool. So as you train, and again, let me remind you that there is a good question about recovery that I'm looking for great answers from you guys, and the author of the best answer will get a $10 Starbucks voucher from me. Leave your answers in the comments. The question is, for a 45-minute moderate to low intensity run, zone 2, zone 3 in heart rate terms, zone 2, zone 3, what would be the best recovery drink, food? And as I'm doing this Facebook Live, I actually think that there are many other ways to recover. Like maybe doing nothing is also recovery. I don't know. Doing nothing, sport drink, some particular food. What is the best option to recover from a 45-minute moderate to low zone 3, sub-zone 3, zone 2 run? Put your answers in the comments, and the author of the best answer, I'll get you a $10 Starbucks voucher for you to have a coffee, maybe decaf. Based on these discussions that we're having today about caffeine, seems like it's a topic, maybe decaf. Okay, cool. So we've talked about oxygen uptake and why it is important, especially for half a marathon and for marathon. Oxygen is really needed to oxidize fat reserves that are slow twitch muscles that are a very efficient muscle set for long runs, for endurance runs like marathon, half marathon. They are able to use an enormous amount of fat stored inside the muscles themselves, triglycerides. Fat needs 9 grams, fat yields 9 kilocalories from 1 gram. It's a very efficient energy storage. It's really needed for endurance running. But the problem is it needs 2 liters of oxygen per gram. So you really need to enhance your oxygen uptake number, and it's measured by something in the industry called VO2 max, or not the industry, in endurance sport, a metric called VO2 max. So we talked about how to improve it. We talked about morning low protocol. Something that you really have to be mindful about oxygen as well is delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. I call it DOMS. It's something that you may experience after an eccentric, a prolonged, unusual exercise. So if you're doing your first marathon and and again, we're 88 days, you have to start training. If you're doing your first marathon and you never ran before more than like 15 kilometers or 10 kilometers, first time you will probably hit 25K mark, and please consult your coach, or at least go to Singapore National Library Board, find some books about planning to run your first marathon, get your marathon planning going. First time you'll do a really long distance from this eccentric exercise, you will have muscle pain, but it will not be immediate. It will be on the second day, usually even on the third day. In endurance running, in ultra running, especially those people that train in non-hilly conditions, like in Singapore, it's pretty much flat everywhere here. The moment that you go for a race or a training sessions in the hills, after doing downhill running, you activate so many new muscles, and it's so stressful, particularly on shins, on your glutes, that you will have an enormous amount of DOMS. That is caused by free radicals. That's a byproduct of when you do the muscle damage, when the muscle tissue is damaged through eccentric exercise, you're sending the white blood cells to recover it, to fix the muscle tissues, and by repairing, they produce a lot of oxygen. So that oxygen not full. You cannot actually compound it with anything, so it floats around in a substance called free radicals. So there is a very quick answer for DOMS, which is no one knows how to fight it. So don't be surprised if someone tells you that he has a special pill or a special nutrition plan for delayed onset muscle soreness. There is none. Research is still ongoing. What I find personally is that vitamin C as an antioxidant, and we've talked about vitamins in our previous session. You can take it through guavas, you can take it through papayas. They're even more rich in vitamin C compared to citruses, compared to oranges, for example, or lemons. By taking an extensive amount of vitamin C, kiwis are also full of that. You can actually fight both the inflammation that's still ongoing in the muscles, and also help yourself recover from the delayed onset muscle soreness. That's important. Last but not least that I wanted to cover today is sleep. Optimal training, optimal nutrition should cater for a good night's sleep for you to be able to rebuild your muscles, to be able to use that protein that you're taking in. For sleep, there is a separate topic, but it appears through a lot of research that the hormone called serotonin that is needed to get us into the sleep, it's actually generated, it's created out of the element called tryptophan. And if you really want to have a good night's sleep, you may actually avoid taking a sleep pill if you do your nutrition right, if you habitually take a lighter meal in the evening, so you're not putting a lot of thermic effect of food stress on your body, so you're not actually metabolizing through your sleep. But if you, for example, take tryptophan-rich foods, and there are multiple of them. There are both dairy products. There is a decent amount of tryptophan in meats. For vegans and vegetarians, there are lots of other choices. I personally find for myself that having a decent egg white, boiled egg without the egg yolk, so that there is no egg yolk. Having like egg white and or yogurt is a good source not only of protein as a recovery for my day of running, but also it has a lot of tryptophan in it, so it puts me to sleep. So I have a light dinner. If I can, I will do something with yogurt, like a salad with yogurt dressing, or just even a snack at maybe 8 p.m. after you run. Have a yogurt, have some sunflower seeds in it. They're all rich in tryptophan. It's a good source of restoration for your body. It's a good source of protein as well as a tryptophan-rich food. Let me quickly check if you have any particular questions for me to comment on. Let me see. Okay. Should I drink a lot of water or isotonic after race, or should I drink as normal? That is a good question. That's from Tain Ong. The answer is it really depends, and this is where here comes my answer to the question that I've been asking you guys for the quiz today. And let me remind you, the quiz question was, what is the best recovery for a 45-minute low to moderate intensity run? So zone 2, zone 3 in heart rate zone terms. What is the best recovery during food for a 45-minute run? And the answer to this question is quite simple. None. You really don't need to recover after a 45-minute low intensity, even like moderate intensity run. It's something that people do wrong, and this is something I hope I hope that a lot of you will find a very good inspiration in it. Some people think that they are achieving something by a quick training, preparing for half a marathon or a marathon. 45 minutes is not a decent training. It's a quick training. It's a base, small warm-up, you name it. And then they go for a massive 1-liter isotonic drink, or they go for a big meal with a lot of protein and carbohydrates, or go for pasta after even like a 1.5 hour run. It's something that is not recovery. It's something that is called compensation. And our last session was about reducing weight. We all need to reduce weight. We have 88 days before the race, so we need to keep on reducing our weight so that we perform better and we feel great after we finish, go through the finish line, and our results are faster. And avoiding compensating is a very important psychological effect. You will not feel hungry even if you run an hour or an hour and a half. You will feel, you will have a sense of accomplishment, and you will have a probably higher appetite. But this is the trick. Do not drink too much of sugarish isotonic drinks after a quick exercise. After a race, it is important. This is the recovery answer for a race. When you ran 21K or 42K, when you ran a half or a full, you really need to recover your glycogen stores to avoid other biochemical processes in your body that will make you feel painful. So a good estimate for your training, and I give it especially for those that are just starting. We have 88 days, guys. If you train something like an hour a day over 1 week, it's a sliding window of your training. So if you train about 1 hour a day, you're in a good zone, you're doing a great job. Hour a day is awesome. That translates to maybe about 60 kilometers, depends on your speed definitely, but it's 60 or maybe more kilometers a week. You're doing great. But if you're doing 1 hour of training a day, you need about 3 grams, 2.5 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight. So for example, if I'm at 80 kilos and I train 1 hour a day, I would prefer to have about 3 by 80, 240, if I'm not mistaken with my math, grams of carbohydrate a day. And then you can have it as multiple snacks throughout the day. If you're running more, like if you train 2 hours a day, which is peak of your training, do not overtrain, by the way. Maybe you do 1.5 hour a day. Then it should be maybe 4 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram. You need 1/3 of that in protein, even 1/4 of that in protein, just to replenish your muscles. And if you train maybe half an hour a day on average, sliding window of 7 days, then you only need about 1.5 to 2 grams of carbohydrates a day. Now, back to your isotonic drink. One isotonic drink, if you look at the labels, and Agri-Food and Veterinary Authority of Singapore does a great job to make sure all these labels are the same. If you look at the labels in most of those isotonic drinks, you will find that a half a liter drink has about 35 to 40 grams of carbohydrates. So if you ran a very light 45-minute run and you do that 3 times a week, you did not deserve it. So you really need no recovery from these light runs. You will actually take all the needed carbohydrates through your regular meals, through your plan, through your nutrition throughout the day. So the answer is, after the race, yes, you need to drink up as much as possible carbohydrates I suggest in the first 1 hour. Drink up or eat it, somehow consume carbohydrates. Maybe 30 grams for runs that are more than 2 hours is decent. Like 1 sugarish isotonic drink for a run that is 2.5 hours long. That is a good way to recover your glycogen stores that you tapped on when you train or when you race. But generally speaking, guys, do not compensate. Make sure that you're focused on the lean body weight for the start day. We have 88 days, and please keep on leaving your comments. I will keep on answering them offline. Good to see you today. Have a nice one. Train, race fast.